On this episode, we go to Tokyo with the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and it happens right now.
The Everett Show Podcast, a shot of entertainment.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift came out in 2006. It was directed by Justin Lin, written by Chris Morgan, starring Lucas Black as Sean Boswell, Bow Wow as Twinkie, and the main villain, I have him right here, DK, Brian T, and of course Sung Kang as Han, one of the fan favorites out of the Fast and Furious franchise series. We'll get more into Han later on as we go more into the films, but this film came out in 2006. I remember when I saw the trailer for this thing, I was like, where's Brian O'Connor? Where's Dominic Toretto? Not seeing in this film, except for the last scene in the movie, which was an uncredited appearance by Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto that basically closed out the trilogy as we thought. But as time went on, you know what happens. You know the story. So, therefore, this movie came out in 2006. It is a standalone sequel to The Fast and Furious and Too Fast, Too Furious. It's the third installment in the franchise. The third Fast and Furious film was confirmed in June of 2005 when Lin was selected as director. Morgan was hired after an open call soon after, thus making the first film in the franchise. Long time association with Lin, Morgan, and actor Sung Kang, and composer Brian Taylor. The score for the movie, I got to throw this out there, was great. I love the movie scores, the tones, and everything that set the mood for scenes and stuff. But unable to secure the return of any original cast, development instead increased focus on the car culture of street racing, drifting from the Tokyo aspect. Principal photography began in August of 2005 and lasted until November, with filming locations including Los Angeles, Tokyo, making Tokyo Drift the first film in the franchise to feature an international filming location. The Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift was released in the United States on June 16, 2006. The film received mixed reviews with praise for its driving sequences, but criticism for its screenplay and acting performances. Tokyo Drift grossed more than $159 million worldwide, making it the lowest grossing film in the franchise, with the series continuing. The film is set between Fast and Furious 6 and Furious 7. So basically, this film again is one of the lowest grossing films in the franchise. I thought Too Fast, Too Furious, the one we talked about previously, was the lowest one, but looks like Tokyo Drift has them beat. Pretty much the plot is Sean Boswell and Clay at the beginning of the movie have a little rivalry, have a street race, and basically some damage was caused and everything, and it got Sean in trouble. He pretty much gets shipped off to live with his father in Tokyo. There, Sean Boswell discovers, runs in, and becomes friends with Twinkie, played by Bow Wow, and he's introduced to the drifting world of street racing. This one, I consider it as the Halloween 3 of the series, if you know what I mean there. It pretty much was a standalone film with the franchise, with the title Fast and Furious, but Tokyo Drift. It brought drifting into the mainstream, and it took off there because drifting was a big thing already internationally, but it pretty much brought it over to the state size after this movie was released there. So the production of this thing, the development with Chris Morgan was a fan of the series. This has all come from wikipedia.com, and I'll be going back and forth between Wikipedia and IMDb. Chris Morgan, again, was a fan of the series, and the producer had an open writing call for the third film. Morgan originally pitched Dominic Toretto in Tokyo, learning to drift and solving a murder. Neil H. Morez, and that name's popped up twice already since we've had this discussion and podcast about this, who had produced the two previous installments, began working on the film in 2005. On June 8, 2005, Mortez hired Justin Lin to direct Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Lin, who wasn't immediately familiar with drifting when he was approached to helm the project, recalled, quote, "I was in film school when the Fast and Furious came out, and I saw it along with a sold-out crowd who just ate it up. What really excited me about the directing this film was the chance to harness that energy, create a whole new chapter and an entente by bringing something new to the table for the audience who love action and speed." Lin was not enthusiastic at first and was unimpressed by early drafts of the script, saying, quote, "I think it's too offensive and dated, and I don't have any intention of doing it," end of quote. The producers allowed him to develop the film in his own way, although it was a constant challenge as he was always battling the studio to make the film better. He said, quote, to their credit, they were very fair and reasonable. He pretty much saw this as taking on and creating a new chapter in the franchise, something different, something new without the original cast from the first film, and with Brian O'Connor, Paul Walker from the second film. He pretty much wanted to create something new because, if I remember, no one wanted to return back from this film here, and therefore that made it to where, you know what, let's just make a whole new film with the, using that title there. And that's pretty much what they did with that right there. As I'm scrolling through the list of credits of people from the cast and the credits there. But let me get to the good stuff right here. So, back to Wikipedia, excuse me. It was impossible to get the necessary filming premise in Tokyo, so they went ahead without permission. I wanted to shoot in Siberia, which was the most crowded place in Tokyo. The cops, they're all so polite, so it takes 10 minutes for them to come over and kick you out. Unknown to Lin, the studio had hired a fall guy who stepped in when the police came to arrest him and said that he was the director and spent the night in jail instead. pretty smart there. Following a respectable testing screenings, the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, Universal still felt it needed a star cameo. Vin Diesel agreed to reprise his role as Dominic Toretto for a brief cameo in exchange for Universal ownership to the rights of the Riddick series and the character in lieu of financial payment. So he compromised there. He's like, I'll do this. I'll step in, uncredited role cameo, but I want the rights to Riddick and the character. Done. So that was that piece right there. So that's pretty much pretty neat right there. Let's get into the the stuff that, did you know, which I love as I do these here. Let's see. Over 100 cars were destroyed or wrecked during the filming of this movie, which is common. The muscle car that Sean drives in opening scene is the highly modified 1970 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Let's see. The Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8 and 2 of the Nissan R32s were converted from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, so they can drift properly. They made some modifications there. When Sean races DK in a parking garage in the AE86 Panda Torino, the car famed of the Drift King, I don't know, of Japan. I don't know how to say his name. Bear with me here if you're listening and watching this. Kilchia Taisachiya. My Japanese sucks. Again, the car of his is parked conspicuous at the corner. During the film in Los Angeles, 600 Asian extras were used for the street racing scene. Paul Walker wasn't asked to return because the studio felt he was too old. The first draft of the script featured the return of Diesel's character Dominic Toretto, as mentioned before. This is the only Fast and Furious film not to star Paul Walker prior to his death. The Volkswagen donated 4 prototype R32s and 4 Touring minivans to fulfill its pledge with Universal to plug each other's product. This film takes place in 2013. Okay. Although his character is supposed to be 17, Lucas Black, who played Sean Boswell, was 23 at the time of the film that was released in 2006. The first Fast and Furious film to have full opening credit sequence. The movie crew went to Japan and bought as many JDM, Japanese domestic market vehicles, as they needed. The JDM vehicles, have the steering wheel on the right. And of course, here we go. This is the lowest grossing film of the series. Okay, I thought Too Fast was the lowest grossing film. It's like, I gotta throw this out there. You go out to like Walmart or some other place and you see DVDs and they got the thing at the top, best movie of the year. Yeah, okay. I get it. So I bet the next one we talk about, the 4th film, Fast and Furious, that's probably the lowest grossing film of the series. I know which one's the highest, which we'll get to here in a couple more podcasts on talking about Fast and Furious films. When Sean first arrives in Tokyo, he is riding on the escalator. Director Justin Lin and executive producer Clayton Townsend can be seen dressed as pilots in the lower right corner of the screen. There is also an MC Hammer ad visible on the wall in the background. Lin credits Hammer for providing crucial funding to his film Better Luck Tomorrow, which came out in 2002. Channing Tatum auditioned for the role for this movie. Let's see. We have so much. Oh, the release in Japan. It was released in Japan under the title Wild Speed 3. Gotta love Japanese. How they, title things different from US stuff. For example, Resident Evil, the video game. In here it's Resident Evil. Japan, it's titled Biohazard. Just to throw that out there. During the last chase sequence, a helicopter shot shows a rooftop field. Futsal is a Brazilian cousin of football. During Sean's third race, a Tokyo AE86 is visible in one shot. Tanaka drives the same make and model in Initial D First Stage, which came out in 1998, an animated series set in Japan with a heavy focus on drifting, if you're an animated fan. When Sean Boswell meets Twinkie, he tries to sell him Air Jordan, saying how much he loves Michael Jordan. Moss Bow Wow played a Michael Jordan fan in Like Mike in 2002, if you remember that. He finds a pair of shoes with the initial MJ and believes them to have been Jordan's shoes. One feature... No, let's not. No. Okay. First Fast and Furious film not released on VHS. Too Fast, Too Furious was the last film out of the series to be released on VHS. That's when not Blu-ray, DVDs really started picking up, because I think 2007-8, that's when Blu-rays came out. That's when we had the war with HD, DVD, and Blu-ray, if you remember that. So, but other than that, oh yeah, this is the first Fast and Furious movie to be filmed with Pandavision cameras and lenses. For you filmmakers out there, there you go. So look into that there. Amber Stephen West's debut. All right. The original title was going to be called Fast and Furious 3, but Justin Lin decided to change it to The Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift because the film is set in Tokyo, Japan. So there's some tidbit information right there. The music, the original motion picture soundtrack, composed of 12 songs. It was released on June 20th, 2006 through Universal Motown. It features a lot of contribution from Don Omar, Teriyaki Boys, Atari Teenage Riot, Brian Taylor, DJ Shadows, and much, much more. But it's a great soundtrack. I had the soundtrack back in the day. I don't know where I have it at. I have it around here somewhere, but you can look it up on nowadays. Look it up on YouTube. I remember someone burning me a copy of the soundtrack for Tokyo Drift, and I listened to it in my car at the time. I mean, it was a good soundtrack. That had some pretty good stuff though. But let's talk about the box office here. Tokyo Drift brought in over 23 million in its opening weekend, placing it number 3 behind Cars, which earned 33.7 million, and Nacho Libre, which earned about 28.3 million. The film itself was in limited release in Japan, released under the name Wild Speed 3, as I mentioned before. The U.S. box office was 62 million, and it grossed another 96 million internationally, resulting in a total reception of 158 million, according to the opening weekend polling by Universal. The audience was 58% male and 60% under 25. The critics, they pretty much gained a 38% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, based on reviews from 138 critics. The average rating is a 5 out of 10. The site's constant reads, eye-popping driving sequences coupled with a limp story and flat performances make this drift a disappointing follow-up to previous Fast and Furious installments. On Metacritic, the film has weighed an average score of 46 out of 100 based on reviews from 31 critics, indicating, quote, mixed and average reviews. Audience surveys by CinemaScore gave the film a grade A on a scale of A to F. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times praised the film, giving it 3 out of 4 stars, saying that director Justin Lin, quote, takes an established franchise and makes it surprisingly fresh and intriguing, adding that Tokyo Drift is more observant than we expected, and that the story is about something more than fast cars. I gotta say, okay, I haven't really talked too much about, like, when we talked about and I went over with the first Fast and Furious and Too Fast, Too Furious. This film, I was skeptical about seeing it first, but I'm gonna have to tell you, after I watched the film, I understood it. I got it. Again, Sean Boswell gets into a race, gets into trouble. He gets shipped to Japan so he don't have to go to jail. He discovers the drifting world. He runs into Han. Han gave him his car, and he pretty much wanted to see what he was made of. The film, I mean, the story, I mean, basically, there's some moments in the film that's really good, especially with the scene with Sean and Han sitting there, and while everyone's playing soccer, he's like, what brought you to Tokyo? And he said it was his Mexico, which we find out later in the 4th, 5th, and 6th film what happened to Sean. Or not Sean, excuse me, Han. So there's some good moments there, and there's some funny moments here and there. I mean, there's a little bit of one-liners here and there. I mean, I still like, you know, the one, you talking to my girl? Yeah. She was admiring my ride. I mean, that's good. You know, it's like, oh, males, you know, thinking about, you know, your bigger engine. He's like, yeah, of course, it's in our DNA. I love that. And of course, Twinkie and Sean in the elevator, he's like, you know what DK stands for, don't you? He's like, Donkey Kong. And of course, when Sean meets DK for the first time, he's like, you know who I am, boy? He's like, yeah, you're the Justin Timberlake of Tokyo. I mean, there's some stuff here and there, which I thought was great. But the film, I mean, the sequences, the driving sequences, the race sequences, the drift sequences, it's good. What I like about this one, it establishes and gives you a taste of who Han is, and it goes back to when he said Tokyo was his Mexico, and you get to see in the 3 films that's set in between Too Fast, Too Furious, and Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, the Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and the Fast and Furious 6, more of what the character Han was about and what led up to his death in this film right here. So if you actually watch in chronological order of how you're supposed to watch these films, Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Tokyo Drift. There you go. That's how you're supposed to, if you go watch it that way. But you could just watch them all the way and through, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. There you go. I do like how Vin Diesel's character, Dominic Toretto, shows up at the end, which also leads into more of the backstory in 4, 5, and 6 about Han. You know, I won this car from Han. I didn't know he was American muscle. He was when he rolled with me. And you get to see how Han rolled with Dominic Toretto in the next 3 films after this. But other than that, I mean, I don't know what else to really say about too much about this film here. I mean, it pretty much, I mean, if you look at the tactical and the critics and the plot and the cast and stuff, this film, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not bad. I will throw this out here. The well-known Drift King in Tokyo, he was one of the fishermen on the bay while Sean was trying to learn how to drift. I forget which one it was, but he was that one person there. But other than that, this film, it's fun. Okay, it's fun. I mean, you don't have, it's a whole new story in a take. They just threw Fast and Furious right on it, you know. But it's one of those films that you can enjoy and go back and watch, just for like how it's edited and shot in the driving sequences and stuff, especially with the chase with DK going after Han, with Sean following them up, leading up to Han's death, you know, with the crash and stuff. Especially that shot in the busy part of Tokyo with all the people where they're drifting through. I love that shot. It's just the soundtrack. I just love how the soundtrack fits the mood. I like it when everything falls into place with the music for the tone and depth of the scene that's going on. That's what I like about Tokyo Drift here. And again, introduces a likable character, Han, into the series, which we'll dive more into as I talk more and more about these films. But other than that, that's it. Kept it short and simple, under 30 minutes. So I do want to take this time and thank everyone that decided to jump in, listen to the audio portion, and watch the video portion of this podcast. Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good day, good week, and we'll see you next time for another new episode of The Everett Lee Show. Peace.
Follow The Everett Lee Show on the following social media platforms: Facebook, The Everett Lee Show; Twitter, @The Everett _Lee; Instagram, Everett Lee. Subscribe, follow The Everett Lee Show on the following platforms: Anchor.fm/Everett Lee Show, YouTube, Everett Lee, and Johners Podcast Network, WrestlingWithJohners.com.